Thanks everybody again for joining us. I would like to introduce Fatima Rodriguez, who is the Executive Director of Camp Ronald McDonald for Good Times in California. She's got over 15 years of fundraising experience, and she has been so gracious to join us today and share with us how they took their traditional Spring Walk for Kids 5K and transitioned it into a virtual fundraiser, raising over $236,000, reaching over 78% of their fundraising goal, which is amazing for a virtual fundraiser, I believe. Along with her co-workers, Lauren and Shannon, are going to be joining her to cover all the aspects of this virtual transition from this broad stroke overview. They'll talk about their team management and motivation and communication, all the learning strategies that they used, along with how they utilized their counselors and their team to raise these amazing funds for Camp Ronald McDonald for Good Times. They will also share tools, communication timelines, and other templates for you so you don't have to recreate the wheel. So thanks for joining us, and I turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. And I just want to thank you all. I know you've been on 1,000 Zoom calls and presentations. So I'm on the West Coast, so it's 1 o'clock here. So it's not quite the end of the day for me, but I know others are approaching the end of your workday. So I just want to thank you all for taking the time. And I hope that we can share some tidbits of knowledge that'll be helpful for you. So I'm going to share my screen right now and get the presentation started. So, and I still have people joining here. Okay, can everyone see this okay? Okay, great. Okay, so yeah, so today we're going to be talking about virtual walk fundraising and the keys to success. So just a little introduction about me so you know who is speaking. Thank you, Jennifer, for the intro. But I thought I'd share a little bit about myself. Usually the first question I get is, how do you pronounce your name? So it's Fatima Jelmain Rodriguez, and I have that unique name because my father was born and raised in Algeria, which is in North Africa. For those who don't know, it's near Morocco. And my mother is Mexican American. So you see them there in this photo. We're at my mom's graduation. She graduated from USC. She was pregnant with my brother. So that was a very proud day for her. And then in the middle there, you'll see my family, my husband and my 2 girls. So I will let you know in advance, they'll probably interrupt me at some point. So I live in East Los Angeles. I've been fundraising for 15 years now. Previously, I was the associate director at a grassroots organization, Proyecto Pastoral, and then moved on to work for Camp Ronald McDonald for Good Times as the development director for 7 years, and then was promoted to the executive director 3 years ago. But in addition to fundraising, I do have a youth development background. My education is in communication and youth development, so that's been the through line in my career, is just really feeling very passionate about supporting the development of young people, and have been really just so grateful and humble to work for Camp Ronald McDonald for Good Times. For those who don't know about our camp specifically, we are in Southern California. We serve about 1,600 campers year-round, much like all of you, medically supervised, supporting children with cancer and their families, both patients and siblings. And then we have family camps as well that support the whole family. So we are a year-round camp, and our budget is $2.1 million. So, you know, fundraising is really critical for us since all of our programming is provided free of charge. And then the last little photo here is my girls up at camp. So they do really enjoy coming and hanging out at camp. It's very fun. So let's see here. Okay, So in terms of our Walk for Kids, we have been hosting our walk for 10 years, so since 2010, and we've seen a 61% increase in our fundraising since we started. And I would say that's been about a 10% incremental increase year after year. You know, it definitely fluctuates depending on our teams, but we do have a lot of experience hosting the Walk for Kids. In terms of 2020 fundraising breakdown, about 165,000 of our 236,000 that we raised thus far came from teams. So for those who aren't familiar with the walk structure, the way that you generally raise funds through walks is through teams. So you'll have a team captain or several team captains who recruit team members, and everybody's raising funds, and it's all celebrated at the culmination of your fun run or your walk. For us, it's a 5K walk that we host at Exposition Park. And so in addition to the $165,000 through teams, we also raise funds through sponsorship, through corporate sponsorship. This year we secured $75,000. And then we tried a new element this year with a text to donate through some live social media fundraising that we did, and we raised a little over $2,000. And so, as Jennifer mentioned, we're at 78% of our goal of $305,000. So we're going to continue fundraising with what we're calling a last lap effort to ensure that we reach our goal. So I should mention that CAMP is part of a larger organization, Ronald McDonald House Charities of Southern California. There are 6 Ronald McDonald houses that fall under our organization, and then Camp Ronald McDonald. So we're all one large organization. So the houses are also hosting walks as well. We collaborate with the LA house to run the actual production of the physical walk. So in comparison to these other walk fundraising efforts, they were hosting their own separate fundraising efforts. CAMP has surpassed the 50% threshold that the other houses are pretty much at 50% of their fundraising goals. So we're very proud of, you know, what we've been able to accomplish thus far. So any questions before I move on? There's a lot of information I'm going to be sharing, and Jennifer's going to help me answer any questions. So I just want to take a pause here really quick. Okay, let's move on. So in terms of our Walk for Kids timeline, this is really a 5-month effort. So we launch our website where our teams go on and start, you know, form their team online and start fundraising online in December of 2019. We start recruiting our teams from January through March, and there's various ways that we do that. We really focus on who are our successful teams from the year prior, and then, you know, we look as far back as 3 years to really focus on those top performing teams first, instead of, you know, it's much harder to recruit new teams, new team captains. So we try to focus first on those successful teams. And then in March, we host a kickoff breakfast for our team captains, and we start really focusing on fundraising come March. And then our Walk for Kids Day was scheduled for April 5th. So that's when we were supposed to have the actual physical walk, was on April 5th. So any questions about the timeline before I move on? Okay. So our transition to virtual walk. So one of the key messages that we had when we transitioned the event was, even if we can't be together, we can join together. So I think that that was one of the most important elements of our transition to a virtual walk. As a chapter, and when I say chapter, that means CAMP and all the other Ronald McDonald houses, we had to decide together if we were going to cancel the walk or if we were going to move forward. So there was a lot of discussion about that. You know, Make-A-Wish Foundation was hosting their walk at the same site where we were hosting our walk the day before, and they had decided to cancel their walk. And for us, we felt like, you know, even though their messaging was, we're canceling the walk, but please continue to fundraise, psychologically, we felt like if we told people we are canceling the walk but still fundraise, that people would stop fundraising. And I think that's, you know, what we've heard from Make-A-Wish, that is in fact what happened for them. So we decided with about 2 weeks before Walk Day to shift it to a virtual walk for kids. So we wanted to focus on two main things to do that. First, on communications, and to define what a virtual walk was, especially because all of the fundraising leading up to the walk is pretty much all of it is done virtually. There are some, you know, fundraisers that people will host pizza parties, things like that. But for the most part, most of the fundraising is done virtually. So it was just required us to help them shift their mindset and really define what that meant. And then secondly, we had to begin production on an actual virtual walk to be hosted on the Ronald McDonald House Charities Facebook on April 5th. So those were the two things that we knew we had to do to pivot. So in terms of communication, we created a virtual walk for kids toolkit that we shared with our key stakeholders to define what a virtual walk looked like. So I'm going to go through that toolkit with you all right now. So for our corporate partners, we decided, okay, what are some of the things that we can do to continue to support our corporate sponsors, because they rely on the advertising that they get Walk Day with all the signage, with the shout outs on stage. So we knew that in order for them to feel like they were getting a return on their investment, we still needed to highlight the partnership. So these are some of the things that we outlined as a way to support them in getting the word out about their support of our walk. You know, we're going to create a walk video that had a logo that we, you know, depending on if they were at $15,000 or above, doing social media shout outs. And you see the example here where it says, thank you to Children's Hospital Los Angeles. So we did social media shout outs. Thank you graphics with sponsor logo that again was shared on social media. We put like how many constituents do we have on our social media so they understand the reach. And then finally doing a family thank you video for our sponsors that would name the specific sponsors so that they could share this on their social media as well. Questions before I move on? Okay, so in terms of walk team strategies, we shared with our walk teams that they should continue to shout out our social via social media, host contests, cheer on your teammates, communicate virtually as much as you can. We encourage them to create why we walk videos where, you know, it wasn't anything that had to be produced. It was just get your phone and put it on selfie mode and talk about why you're walking for Camp Ronald McDonald for Good Times from the Heart. We also encourage folks to do a countdown to the Walk for Kids on social media to show their enthusiasm, and then reminded them where to tune in on April 5th so that they could actually participate in the virtual walk. In terms of virtual walk day, I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end, what the actual day looked like, but you can also visit our RMHC SC SoCal Facebook page and you'll see all of the elements are still there. We did a combination of some pre-recorded posts that really looked at the impact of our programs, but we also had some live hosted by Jasmine Hoya, who's our outreach person for camp. So we knew, you know, she's a very dynamic person, so she ended up emceeing, and so we interspersed some pre-recorded and some live elements where she was able to shout out people who were posting and say, oh, look, so-and-so is, you know, walking their dog today, and thank you so much for being here. So I felt like that live element on social media was super important to make the walk feel like an actual virtual walk. So the other things we encouraged folks to do was wear their Walk for Kids shirt. We also sent them little bibs that they could wear, they could print at home and wear. You know, we shared with them like other ideas of people that feel comfortable going outside. They could dance in their living room, ride their Peloton, you know, that there were other things that they could do in addition to walking. And then scheduling time to hang out virtually with your team on Zoom. Like, let's get on another Zoom call and celebrate our fundraising success. I think our counselor team was was the best example of that, where they tuned in to the virtual walk day together, and they would like sing camp songs and hang out. And then whenever a video would come up or whenever Jasmine would go live, they would they would have someone share their screen and they would all watch together. And then at the end of the actual virtual walk day production, they sat and did contests, like, you know, most spirited contests, who raised the most money contest. So they were able to spend that time to celebrate their success as a team. And then this reminder again that the fundraising was going to continue as a last lap push until June 30th. When we decided to pivot to virtual walk, we knew that we would likely not get to 100% of our goals. So we wanted to remind people that we were going to continue fundraising. Any questions before I continue? I'm glad I'm being so clear. So another important element for us was engaging, you know, celebrity and influencers to support the promotion of our walk. I think sometimes the perception of Los Angeles or Southern California is like, okay, the celebrities are like walking their dog in front of your house and you can just go out and talk with them and they'll support you. But it is an effort here too, especially because for Camp Ronald McDonald, we want to make sure that there's alignment with whoever we are partnering with, because it's not just about the name, it's like making sure that they support our impact, our mission, that they're aligned with our values. So I think that, you know, within your community, when you're talking about influencers, it doesn't have to just be celebrities. It can be people within your immediate community who are well respected, who are utilizing social media, those campfluencers, as we've started to call them, where, you know, they have some notoriety in your community. It could be a newscaster, it can be the mayor of your city, you know, whoever has that respect and aligns with your purpose and your mission is the type of person that you want to reach out to. So these are some of the ways that we shared with our influencers they could support us. Join our virtual red carpet, receive shout outs on our social media, inviting their followers to like our social media accounts and to join us on walk day. Start an Instagram or Facebook fundraiser pre-walk. So on Instagram and Facebook, you can, you know, attach your nonprofit organization to raise funds. So we ask for them to do that as well. Just share why they walk for camp. And then we made sure to help them understand what is the return for them too, in addition to supporting, you know, an important cause, like that they would also have exposure to our supporters. And I would say the most successful partner for us was this singer named Carson Letters. So he's like a YouTube sensation. He has more than 10 million views on his YouTube. He has 3 million Instagram followers. And he was previously connected to Camp Ronald McDonald because we do a holiday party and we have little, you know, child celebrities come and sign autographs for our kids. So he had a relationship with us and we reached out to him and he ended up singing a song, one of his original songs, wearing our camp shirt, and we posted it on our Instagram, and he asked his followers to go to our Instagram to watch this original song that would only be performed on our Instagram. So we received 4,000 views of that video, which is the most that we've received of any of our we have about over 4,000 followers on our Instagram. So it was a lot more than we've ever received in terms of views. So I think it was a really great partnership and something that we hope to grow with him. So Walk for Kids Day activities, this was also part of the toolkit, helping to define what the walk was actually going to look like that day. So where to tune in, you know, what are some of the things you were going to see, which was a welcome from the CEO of the overall charity, Vince Bryson, the national anthem performance, which was performed by Carson Letters, pre-recorded, the route sponsor thank yous. So just being clear about like, okay, what are some of the things you're going to see on virtual walk day, and then reminding folks again to stay tuned for post-walk celebrations. Folks would be able to eventually pick up their incentives that they're going to receive, and then our last lap fundraising opportunities. And then finally, just summarizing, you know, what is our overall fundraising goal, and what is our goal, which is to inspire our supporters to keep Walk for Kids and Camp Ronald McDonald top of mind during this time. We were very clear about what are the social media handles and hashtags for them to follow and to tag, and then what are the keys to success, which is building community, inspired through mission impact, and set small attainable goals to get to your bigger goal. So what are the big takeaways? I think for us was just to, you know, really be innovative, think outside of the box. It was a heavy lift to transition to virtual walk in 2 weeks, the production piece, especially because for camp, it wasn't like we were just highlighting our program. We had all these other houses we had to come together and make sure that we were putting together a cohesive program that highlighted all of our impacts. I think messaging is key, you know, keeping it upbeat and positive, and remembering that, you know, people want to feel inspired right now. They want to feel like they can do something productive. So I think that the time is actually right to do this type of community building virtual fundraiser. I think this Walk for Kids committee that we had, that was something that I didn't mention earlier, but we did have our Walk for Kids committee. This was our first time doing that this year. And one of the takeaways that we had from that was just making sure that our committee members had defined roles based on their strengths. So if you have someone who's really great with social media, or, you know, has like a lot of business contacts, like making sure that it's very clear based on their strengths and what they bring to the table, what they can do to support. And I think one of the keys really is looking to your passionate constituents. I think that one of the reasons why camp is the most successful walk fundraiser within our chapter is because of our passionate constituents. That's one of the advantages that we have, that you all have as well. You have very passionate counselors, campers, people whose lives have been transformed by your programs that are going to go to bat for you. And so this is the time to put out that call to action and to say, you know what, we are really integral to the lives of the children that we serve. I think another key message that really resonated with people was this idea that we're all in quarantine, but our kids and our families are in quarantine when they're going through treatment, often for 1 to 3 years at a time. You know, if our kids then have a relapse, then sometimes it's longer. So what we are experiencing is something that our families experience regularly. So I think that that really touched home for people, because they started to understand, like, once we're out of this, because we will get out of this, the families and the children that we serve are going to oftentimes be in this same situation for a longer period of time. So I think that messaging is something to keep in mind as well. In terms of other passionate constituents, you know, looking to our board members, our donors, and other influential people in our community. So there is, you know, a lot more to share in terms of the execution of our team management. You know, how did we motivate? How did we communicate? How did we leverage that social media? One of the things that I talked to Jennifer and Dawn about was that this is a lot of information to share all at once. So we decided to split this up into 3 different workshops. So what I gave you right now is just the general overview of how we transitioned to the virtual walk. But these other key elements around team management, motivation, communication, leveraging social media, Lauren Dasher, who's our events manager and the queen of the walk, she's going to share that next week, next Thursday. And then Shannon Edwards, who's also here, program associate, she has many talents. And so in addition to supporting our program efforts, she also supports the Walk for Kids in a tremendous way. So she supported our counselor team, who raised $80,000 this year. That's the most that they've ever raised. We had 100 counselors who are raising funds for camp. Their goal was $50,000, and within the 2 weeks that we were quarantined before the walk, they raised $30,000 on top of their goal, so to get to the $80,000. So that was, I think, the biggest success story. And so Shannon, the team counselors, the team captains of the counselor team had dubbed themselves the Ninja Turtles, and they said that Shannon was their master splinter. So Shannon's going to be the one to give that presentation about what were the strategies that our counselor team used to be our top fundraising team for the entire walk. So yeah, so that's what's coming up. Do you all have any questions for me?
We'll open up the mic here if you want to talk.
Good stuff. Thank you. I know it's hard when you got not getting a lot of live feedback like you do at camp, but this is great stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we wanted to, I know a lot of us have been attending workshops on how to do things virtually, and our hope is to give you just real tools and techniques and strategies that we used that you can then replicate. So the toolkit that I shared with you, that I went over, you know, I'll share with all of you in a PowerPoint format so you can go and just make those edits.
That's awesome.
Excellent. Thank you.
When you were doing the Zoom meetings together, was that orchestrated, the different teams and stuff through the organization itself, or was that individuals just orchestrating their own get-togethers?
That was just individuals orchestrating their own get-togethers. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But it was encouraged.
Mm-hmm.
It was in, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that that's what, you know, next week's webinar is going to be very helpful, because the team management piece and supporting our teams is really critical. It's not enough to send emails and remind people via email. Understanding how your team captains communicate best is really critical. You know, so we're gonna talk about how we did that.
Good.
Other questions?
Well, this is awesome. You did a really wonderful job and a smart move there. That's great.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that I wanted to also give you all an understanding of the timeline, how we started recruiting people as early as December, to give you an understanding of the amount of like time, energy that it takes to really develop great teams, and to help manage your expectations. I know that there are those of you that don't even have development staff, but that's where you do have passionate counselors and volunteers and board members that you could form a committee to support you with that. So I think that, you know, it's possible. Like, I think you just want to make sure you have a timeline. Again, that's something we will share with you. It's our communication timeline, which is very detailed about like when emails went out, when social media posts went out. So we'll share that with you as well, so you can understand like how do we structure this from a communications perspective too. So any other questions or comments or information that you feel, you know, is your like big questions you might have still that maybe we should address in the next presentation?
Fatima, this is Don Golden. I have a quick question for you. Communications, team management, motivation, social media. Among those three, would you rank those in any priority in terms of, or are they all sort of equal on the same scale?
I would say they're all equal. Lauren, are you still here, Lauren?
Hi, yeah, I'm here.
Do you want to weigh in? Because Lauren was really the one pushing this piece of the walk.
I would say for us, we found having a very clear communication plan was the top priority, because I think once we even shifted virtual, I definitely think the piece of social media became a larger piece of that and higher priority, because it's how our teams found that they were engaging and also fundraising. But I think the basis of a communication plan, we were able to manipulate that very easily and like work together as a team to adapt the plan that we did have by just having something in place already. So I would say that piece is like the largest piece, because the team management piece falls into your larger communication plan.
When people donated, I mean, I know some of them, obviously you said you did some campaigns through Facebook, but in terms of the teams, was there a specific place they donated, or did it just go through your website, or how did they make their gifts or donations?
So and if you look at walkforkids.org, you'll see that's the platform that we used. It's through Luminate, which is a really massive platform that takes time to develop, but there are other platforms that are a little bit easier, I think, to do crowd fundraising. You know, we use that platform because we are hosting several walks for all of the Ronald McDonald houses and camp, but we need to be on one website. So it's a little more complicated for us, but I think there are other platforms like Give Lively, which is what we used for the text to donate piece. But Give Lively is free, and it's a beautiful platform, and you can do some team fundraising through Give Lively. Classy is also another one. There's so many different platforms that you can research and see what works best for you, but there are lots of different platforms that you just need to make sure it has that team fundraising element to it. So Give Lively and Classy are two examples of that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? We will share with you, when Lauren does her presentation, examples of the social media posts, the videos, the Why We Walk videos. We also just recently finalized a last lap video that summarizes everything that we've done to this point, and then says, help us get to the top of the mountain, which is our $305,000. But it shows, it's a celebration too of how far we've come, and especially our counselor team and what they were able to achieve. So we'll share all of that with you guys during the next presentation. Any other questions?
Fatima, one other from me. The tools you're describing, though, while they were developed for a fun walk, I assume that they can be used with minor modifications for any kind of virtual fundraising event, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So whether you're concerning an online, choose what it might be, but yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. This is great stuff.
I want to shout out, our team. I mean, we have 2.5 fundraisers that between me, Lauren, Shannon, and then we have a development associate as well. So this was a big team effort. So, and I'm grateful, like everybody's very innovative and thoughtful and organized. So which is where that communication plan comes in. So I think we all work off of each other's strengths, and that's a big, as you all know, everything is a team effort. There's not one individual who is able to achieve great things. It takes the whole team. So yeah, I'm grateful for that. Okay, well, any other questions?
I was just wondering, I mean, I know Smile a Mile, I had asked in the chat who all, does a fun run or 5K, and I know Smile a Mile does in September, and they're looking at this as a virtual run as a potential backup plan. Is anybody on the call today that's was probably going to implement a 5K this year, and now they're not sure just based on where we are with this virus? And maybe this is a virtual run. Maybe this is something that you think that you can pull off. I was just wondering if anybody was at that point.
Yes, hi, I'm Jake. I'm from Dreamdale on Cape Cod. I don't have my video on because my house is a disaster. But we are a very small nonprofit. We kind of have 3 major fundraisers throughout the year, and one of them is called Tour de Cape, where on Cape Cod, it's actually a lot of people use it for kind of a tune-up for the Pan Mass Challenge. We start in Boston, we finish at camp, and we have a big kind of rally, a big barbecue, and a big celebration at camp. And obviously, we're not going to do that. We're not going to have a bunch of people sweating next to each other and sharing bodily fluids and being close to each other. So we're actually, today we had an early board meeting and discussing how to kind of do this virtually, and a lot of good ideas here. We're going to try to do something. The idea was to do something around the lines of like a $1 per mile kind of thing that people do from home. So this was a really great framework to see how a bigger organization has put it together, and it seems like very thorough, very clear, and I might just nab this one and take it for Dream Day. So thank you very much for putting this together.
You're very welcome. Yeah, for us, I think it's important to, we see, Camp Ronald McDonald as part of this larger network that's supporting the same children that we're all passionate about serving. So for me, I felt like, there was no question that we would share these tools with you all so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel, and you can take whatever's helpful and replicate it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, if there's no other questions, I encourage you all to tune in to the next 2 presentations, because that's where a lot of the nitty-gritty of the work will be shared.